All right. Let me quickly create something here to just explain. Yeah. So, okay. So I have this. We have looked at layer, we've looked at property. So let's just move away here before we now come back to parametric. Once I'm done with parametric, before we look at blocks, but we're looking at all of them today. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to look at how to group objects. So I said that we can join objects together to make them one entity. But then you can still group objects. Now grouping objects is more of taking things and seeing them as one, how do I call it? It's not a glued up, it's not an object per se, it's more of you have all of them together forming a particular maybe course. Don't mind me. Sorry about that word, but I'm just looking for the right word for it. But now, when you group objects in this case, you can still reach into the different individual object that makes up that group. Do you understand? You can still work on them. So, but then I don't use it, but it's here. So, if, for instance, I have this object right now, you notice there are still their individual parts. This is still one part of object that I can move away. Right? And the other part. So I can actually group these guys and make them one object. So for me to group this object, I have under my group panel, I have this icon. Yeah, I'm recording. So I have this group. So what I will do is I'll first off highlight what I want to group. So I'll just highlight this and just come up to this place and click on this group. So once I click on group, that's it. That object has been grouped. So if I select this object now, you notice it's selecting the whole object. Can you get? So it's selecting the whole object as a group. Not that I'm selecting an individual part now. Even if I click on this, it's going to select the whole object. So that means I can manipulate this as a group, not just all right. So let's look at other things about that. So if you okay. Okay, join works when objects are joined together. When okay, whatever you want to join, they must be connected in one way. I cannot join these two rectangles together. I can't join them because no part of this object are connected. Do you get? But if they were connected, join will work. So group is what will work in this case because none of them, this is not connected to this in any way. So that's why group will work. But let's look at all these icons and look at what they do. So the first icon you have here is group selection on. So what group selection on means is because this guy is active, that's why if we select this object, it's going to select it as a group, not as an individual object. If we want to retain the group, but be able to select the individual parts, we'll turn off this guy. So if we turn this group selection off, that means I can retain the individual parts. This is the array. I can select this inner one, but that doesn't mean that the group is not there. It's still group object. All right. So turn this on. Then we have this top one. I'll come back to this last. So we have this top one to ungroup. So if I want to ungroup this guy, I can just select this and ungroup. Do you understand? If I click on ungroup, now we're back to where we were. Do you understand? Okay, so let me group this again, select, and I'll click on the group object. So let's look at this one, which is edit group. So if I select edit group, so what edit group will do is, notice once I click on edit group, this syntax comes up in this command line bar. It says, what do I want to do? Do I want to add an object to this group, or I want to remove object from the group, or I want to rename this group? You know that when we're creating this group, we didn't name. So let's look at the three of them. So if I want to add object into this group, how can I add objects? So I'll undo that. And let me just create what I want to add to it. So let's assume I want to add this one to this group. Because right now, if I select this, it's not part of the group. Right? It's not part of the group. So I want to include it into the group. So if I select this and I go to edit group, then I can say, okay, I want to add objects. As soon as I click on add, you can even see everything that are in the group are highlighted. Only this is not highlighted. So it means it's not part of the group. So if I say I want to add objects, it's going to tell me to select object to add into the group. So just add this one. So once you add this, I will press enter. That's now part of the group. It's now in the group. Did you see that? All right. We can also remove by just the same command, and we'll say remove objects. So we can select the object we want to take out of the group. Once you select, press enter to confirm. Then, like I said, when we were creating this guy, we did not name it. So let's just rename. So if we select this and we say edit, we can say we want to rename. All right. So if I say, okay, rename this, it's going to tell me to enter new name for this group. So I can just say, circle punch, something like that. Mind you, when you are naming these guys, your what's it called? Mr. Afolabi, help me. Is he, what do they call this thing? Uppercase and all those things. It's very important. Case, yeah, it is case sensitive. It's very important. So if you are using first letters, capital C, and every other thing small letter, if you want to edit it by name, if you go and put small letter, it won't say it. You understand? So it is case sensitive. Thank you. So you should note that. So if you know that, okay, you don't want to go through the process or this, you can decide, okay, you make everything small letter, you make everything capital letter. So you don't have to. So let's just say this is going to be a circle bunch, all small letter. Hmm? What is it? No, 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 no space. I don't want to put space. If I press hit space bar now, it's going to accept it. You understand? So now we have that guy. This is now, so we've renamed this circle. All right. So let's look at how we can modify that. So let's create another group. So I can also select this. Okay, let me use another method of creating the group or of grouping this object. So that's making use of my group manager. All right. So before I even go to group manager, there is this group bounding box. You notice that if you select your group, there is this square around the group. That's the bounding box. If you don't want to show the bounding box, you can. All right. So it will select this as a group, but the bounding box is not shown. So it's just selecting the whole individual part of the group, but still selecting the whole group. Do you understand? But you can already see from all these things, it's telling us that it's selecting the whole part of these objects in this group. But the bounding box is preferable because all those dots won't have to. Sometimes they could be distracting. So let's click here and we can go to the group manager. So if we click on group manager, everything we have done so far, we can do it in the group manager. Talking about creating a group, talking about editing the group, adding to the group, removing from the group. Do you understand? All those things we can do it in this group manager. So let's look at how to create a group object from this group manager. So you notice the group object we have, this is it, circle. Right. So let's create another one. So we have option to create a new group. You can see create a group. You have option to create a new group. So we can just say create. So if I click on create, um, new, select name group. Okay. Okay, let me select this object. So if I group name, I can just say this is going to be my door. And any description I want to give into this door, I can give that. So if I say new, it's going to go away for a moment. It tells me to select the object. So what I was missing was I didn't put a group name. So this allows me to just put a group name straight up. So once I have this object selected, I press enter. It's going to add this guy into the group. So I now have two. All right. So what that means now is I can actually select either of these and work on them. Notice if I select this, it gives me the name of the group. I can highlight, I can remove, I can rename, I can reorder all these things. So let's look at removing from group. So if I go to this door, I can say I want to remove from this group. If I say remove, it's going to tell me what do I want to remove. I can say remove these knobs from this door. Press enter. Now these are not part of the group anymore. Do you understand? Then if I want to add back, you can just go to add. Remember, notice I have this guy selected. Whatever you have selected is what you'll be working on. So if I say, okay, the door I want to add back, I can select what I want to add into this group, press enter. That is added. And the same thing, I can do the same thing for the circle. So maybe for the circle, I want to remove. I can say, okay, remove these guys from this group, press enter. They are removed. Okay. And let's say I want to add this one into the group. I'll select this, press enter, and that's that. Then I can also rename the group, just like we did. So if I want to rename this circle, I can just say rename. I can just say rename. So it tells me to give it a name. You can see here, I can now. So if I want to write two words, two words. So what I will do is I will just put an underscore. So Johnson. I think it's forcing everything to capital letter. Let's see. So if I press enter and let's see. Uh, Name. So it's forcing it to capital letter. Okay, so that's that. So once you are done with everything, then if you now want to ungroup, you have option to also ungroup. You can also ungroup this object. And you notice in this place there is no ungroup icon. Can you find any ungroup icon there? No. What you can see is what explode. So if I say okay, explode, and notice we don't have any group anymore. Do you understand? So the ungroup in this manager is the explode. So if I want to ungroup all these door guys now, I can just select the door. I can just say explode. Then we don't have anything anymore. If I select this, we now have the individual parts. So that's the group. Then going to the utilities. So I'll be fast today. So going to the utility panel, we have some things. We have the measure tool. I think we've used it. So let's just look at it. So we can do a quick measure, distance, radius, angle, and so on and so forth. So if I want to measure this length from here to here without using dimension, I can actually do that. You can see measure distance, and it's going to tell me to specify first point. So this is the first point of this all the way to this place. Once I click, it goes away and tells me the information. You can see I have the distance here. I have the angle x plane and xy. I have the delta x, delta y, and z. So now, why do we use this? If you are writing Autodesk exam, it's very important. If you are writing Autodesk exam is designed in a way that the way it marks us, the way it marks you, it doesn't mark you based on only answer, step, and the way you follow instruction. You can tell that you have zillion ways of creating same thing, even if not up to zillion, at least like 3, 4 ways that you can achieve one same thing. Then if AutoCAD is telling you to use this route, you're now taking this route. That's in terms of following instruction. Do you understand? You might get the answer correct, but if you don't follow the AutoCAD instruction, you missed that mark in that aspect. Do you understand? So there will be times where there are questions in AutoCAD certification that whereby it will tell you to use the measure to get the distance between the points. Do you understand? And it will ask you to put the value. Do you understand? It will ask you to put the value. So a way we got to make this thing very fast is that after I've measured this, I can actually click on this guy. You notice this is distance, 103 point stuff. I can actually click on this and go and highlight it here. I can highlight it and copy this, then go and paste it. It makes it very fast instead of me having to look at it and type. Do you understand? So the way it works is it gives you an interface for the question. Then when you click on the button, it takes you to AutoCAD. It will run AutoCAD directly for you. You do the exercise. Once you are done with the exercise, you have to now go back to the interface and put the answer. So instead of going back and typing, looking at it, you can just copy here, go back, paste, go to the next question. But it's also time-based, very important, please. So in case you want to write Autodesk exam, time is very key in writing it. So you can measure distance, can also measure angle. So if I click on measuring angle, I can select arc or circle to measure. So that means this one only measure, okay, what's that? Radius, sorry. Only measure radius. So if I select this guy, it gives me the radius and diameter. Okay. Then you have your angle and you have your area and volume. So if I go to angle, that means it's require me to put two values. I know that the angle between this guy and this is 90. So you can tell from there. Then so that's just what all these guys are used for. These two, we're not, okay, let's look at area, but we're not going to look at volume because volume is 3D. So you can be asked to get the area or perimeter of this space. Then you can use this to get the area. And the thing is, the area does similar things. If you want to get perimeter, it's still the area to use to get the perimeter. So if I click on the area, it tells me to pick first corner point. I can click here. It tells me to click the next point. So what you just want to do is go and cover the whole, go to this point, go to the next point, go to this point. And once you are done, go to the last point and press enter. It's going to give you the area and the parameter of this bounded shape. Do you understand? So whichever one you want to pick from it, you can pick from it. Then we are not going to be looking at this because this is outside. Then you have quick select, you know that, selection. So quick selection is just easily selecting this. That's the next icon. And so if I click on quick select, it brings up this dialog box and it's going to apply whatever selection set you choose to the entire. You can decide say you don't want to apply it to, okay, well, you see this utility. You have your measure or your quick measure this. By the right, up top here, you are going to see quick select. So if I click on quick select and it brings up this, then it's going whatever selection property I choose it, that's what it's going to use to apply. And it will apply it to the entire drawing. Except you want to apply to selected object, that's when you use this icon. You know this icon allows you to select objects. So let's just say we want to apply it to entire drawing. So before I do that, what I'm going to do is we have edited this, we have broken down. So I'll select this guy and change the okay, so let's say for this circle, I want to change the color of the circle to red. Change the color of this guy also to red. change this to yellow, then select this one, change them, just quickly create a new layer for them. Why is this shaking? All right, so let me just quickly create a new layer. Okay, so I have layer 01. So is he sensing my voice? I talk without start. Eh? Mouse. It's not mouse. It's not. It's not. Okay, so I'll select this and this one also. I think so. I think it's this cable. Okay, it's not talking. So I want these two guys. I want them to be in layer 001. And let's look at quick select. How to work with quick select. So if I come to this and let's see what we want to do. So we want to select object. If I say I want to select object by color, I can say, okay, select object by color, and the operator I'm going to use is equal to. So when I say equal to, that means any object that has a color which is equal to this, select it. So let's say I want to select all objects that have color equal to that same thing that you drop down, that one, this guy. So if I say, okay, I want to select every object in this drawing that has a color which is equal to red, select it. So once I have this done, I'll click on OK. It's going to select every object in this drawing. Do you understand? That's using the property of color. Okay. You can also decide to say you want to use property of layer. So every of this property, any property you see here, you can use it to select object. Remember that I changed some object to a particular layer. I can also select them. I can say select objects with that are equal to this layer. Let's look at the operator. If I go to the operator, we have other things that we have non-equal, not equal. So if I say I want you to select every object that is not equal to 001, that means select every object except those ones that are in that layer 001. Do you understand? So that's what the quick select is. You can say everything is selected except this guy and this, because they are the only two objects that are in layer 001. So that's quick select. You can use any of the options. You can use transparency, line weight, line scale, line type, any of these things. Then you use your operator and the value that you want to use to select. Do you understand? Okay, so I'll close that and go to the next one. So the next one is selector. You know this. So selector is the same thing as Control A. So if I say selector, select everything in the drawing. The same thing as Control A. So I'll escape. Then you have a calculator. We have used this calculator once, right? So if you click on this calculator, it brings up this calculator dialog box that you can use to do a lot of things. So now this calculator has different section. You notice you have your number pad that gives you the normal calculator values. Then if you want to use your scientific feature of it, you can also bring it up. If you want to use your conversion, so if what you want to do is convert, you can also go to your conversion here and choose whatever thing you want to convert. If it is length, then you can now choose the length value or units. So I don't have to go through all these things. They are here. We can use them. Then I'm going to pause this for now. Go back to my drawing tool. Remember I said in our draw tool, we are still going to come back and look at some things here. Okay, so it is now time for us to come back. So if you come to our draw tool, let me pin this down. We did not look at multiple points, right? So what multiple points are just points in the operation plane. Now, why do we need points? We will put points in our drawing just so because we want to use it later in the future. So maybe okay, so let's assume this is the whole Lagos state, for instance. And I have my own plot of land in the location there. And you notice this what the survey, what do they call that paper? The land survey stuff. They usually points, and those points have coordinates that tells you that your property has a coordinate value that shows you the property, whole property now. So you can actually use multiple points to put those coordinate values. So what do I mean? If let's assume I have a point or a property point that is here. So let's assume this is our graph. And I have a point somewhere here. I have another point somewhere here. A point here, a point here. So we need to know, you understand? So let's assume we have values for each of these points, x and y values. We can use multiple points to snap to those things, and then we can use it later. Do you understand? You don't understand? We are assuming these are our land. But then, if you are to look at the survey paper, you will have the line drawn to get that survey. I think I have option. Let me see. I think I have there is one project I did in Revit, so maybe I'll be able to share with us. So if I click on this, Revdoc. Try to see. Let's see, where is this? Okay, so there's this document that this man shared with us that gave us the, this paper now, survey stuff off. So this is own property, his own property. And then if I zoom into it, all these points that you see here, they have coordinate value. So it can be represented either using bearing value, like in the case of this, using bearing. And it can also be represented using coordinate points. But most of the time, this is not used to bearing, because it's using the latitude and longitude of the object. So I want to bring this into our graph. So let's assume this is the globe. So the bearing value that gives us this point are the coordinate value we want to. So we can actually snap to those points. And then snapping to those points, we know that later we can draw lines together. So you might not be given this line. You will only be given these points. So if you are able to snap to those points, you can just create your line. Since you can utilize your snap to snap from here to here, click, and drop. Jump snap. So that's what multiple points are used for, just to snap to a particular location that you can use later in the future. Jump snap. So that's the best way I think I can explain multiple points. So if I want to bring in multiple points, they have this icon and it tells you to specify a point. So let's assume this point, the first point is on my origin. You know that that means I have to put 0, 0, right? If I click, you don't see anything, but the point is here. If I bring my mouse closer, you notice you will see that green snap icon, meaning I can actually snap to this place. There's a point there. I can actually manually put a point anywhere. Like if I put a point here, you will see a dot that looks like, do you see that dot? There's a multiple pointer. I can also click here. You will see another dot. I can click here. You will see another dot. So if I escape, you can still see the dot. I can decide, okay, now that I have this dot, I can draw a line snapping from here to this place. Do you get why the multiple points? So now you understand what I'm saying. Yeah, they are more of the coordinate points. Do you understand? They have X and Y. So when you use them, they are just there waiting for you to use them. So you can use them in any way. Maybe you want to draw a circle and use them as the center point of the circle, or use them to join lines. You understand? So why I'm talking about coordinate points is I came back here because of this guy. But before we come back to this ID point, but before we come back to this guy, I will talk about this two tool again. We have our divide and our measure. So if I have a line, I'm drawing a line, I don't know the length of this line. You know, I just drew this line, I did not use any value. Then I want to divide this line into equal parts. So let's say I want to divide it into 5 equal parts. Are you following? I don't know this length, I don't know the value or the length of this line, but I want to divide it into 5 equal parts. How can I do that? There is a tool for us to divide objects or lines into equal segments, and that is this guy, divide. Okay? So if I select divide, divide is going to tell me select object that I want to divide. So I'll just select this object as this. I'll select this object. Once I have it selected, the next thing is going to tell me that I should enter the number of segments. Number of segments in this case is the subdivision that I have. How many segments? How many parts? So I said I want to divide it into 5 equal parts. Right? So if I click here, 5, and I press enter, it seems as if nothing happened, right? But it has actually divided this. So how it did the division was to add multiple points at different segments. And if you take that, Esther, if you take that to technical drawing and you're asked to measure the line to divide it, remember how we use it. Use your ruler and start measuring. Once you measure, so this is how we do it there. Once you measure, so let's assume this is the line. I want to divide this line into maybe 3 parts. Once I measure from here, I will put a point here. First up, right? I'll put a point, I'll measure, put a point, and that's what I start to see. So you just added multiple points at different segments of this line. Okay? So if I select this line, you don't see the point here. If I select this line and move it away, you see that those points are there. Yeah, they are on the line. No, they don't fall. It's just on it so that you can use it for whatever you want to use. Okay? So if I'm to try and check this now, I can actually get the subdivision. If I click here and I try to move, I will get to a point where I say node. Node is multiple points. If I click and move up, you notice this is 15 point something. If I go back again, click from here all the way to another node, it should give me the same value because I'm dividing it into 5 equal parts. So all my subdivisions should have the same value, and I should have 5 equal subdivisions. So this is the class. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You see, how did I get? You know, I told you that when you run the command, AutoCAD will add multiple points to the different segments. So I can actually snap to those points. You notice if you want to snap to a point, what's the snap object you see? The object snap type you see is node. You know, we already added a pointer. We also add one pointer. is node. So that means you want to look out for node. If I come here, this is node. That means this is one subdivision. And that's how you know those things. So let me create another line. And this line, instead of dividing this, I want to measure. So you would ask, what's now the difference between measure and divide? So divide will divide object into equal segments. Measure will mark out a particular length out of that line. So let's say I don't care about the number of parts you should give me. But what I want is I want to have 10 units. I want to measure out 10 units. I don't care how many 10 units I want to have, but just measure out 10 units from it. So what I'm going to use in that case is measure. Mind you, measure is talking about the length, while divide is talking about the parts or the segments. Do you understand? So I can use this to measure. So I click on this other option, measure, and it's going to tell me to select object just like divide. I'll select this object. Then it's going to tell me to put the length of measure that I want. So I'll say I want 10, press enter. So if we try to check that now, click from here. Actually don't need to, okay. I can click from here. As I move, I will get to, that's 110. I can continue again all the way, another 10. So I will keep measuring 10, 10, 10, 10. So what will now happen is that on getting to the last point, that one might not be up to 10 because it's measuring 10, 10, 10, 10, 10 from here. Do you understand what I'm doing? So I want to ask you a question. So my question is, why is it that it is this one that is 6? Why is this one not 6? Start point of what? Okay, when measuring. Okay, let's assume. No, if you want to measure, it's just going to select object. You're not getting what the right answer is that when creating this line, I started from this point. That was my second point. So if I do the measure, it's going to start from that point. If while creating the line, I started from there and I click here. If I'm measuring, the measurement will start from that point. Do you get it? There's no option for you to specify the direction of measurement. It will automatically take the direction of your flow of your object. Do you understand? So, because if you look at it now, it's not saying, it's just saying select object. It's not saying direction, it's just saying length. Do you understand? So we have that, and that's what I just wanted to talk about here. So we can now go back into this place, ID points. So if I click on ID points, AutoCAD will ask me to select a point. So ID points will give you identification of the point. And when you are identifying the points, what do you get about the X and the Y line? You usually have 3 points, the X, Y, and Z points. Do you understand? So if I select this point now, it's going to give me the ID point. You can see the X is 59 point something, the Y is this, and the Z is 0. So the reason is because we are in 2D, and by default, 2D's elevation is on 0. When we say elevation, we're talking about altitude. It's on 0 on the ground, so it doesn't change. If I want to change the elevation of any object I create now, first off, what I need to do is run the elevation command. You don't like command, but you have to know some command. So if I run my elevation, ELEV for elevation, and I press enter, you can see that we have this elevation. So if I press enter, it's going to tell me to put elevation value. The default value I have is, can you see, 0. So if I put an elevation value of, let's say 10, so it's asking me to put a thickness. I'll just leave that there. So I have that. If I add the multiple points now, so let's say want to add a multiple point somewhere here. Let's try and check the ID point of this. Yeah. The Z should be 10 because we've changed the elevation. Can you see? So now what I've done is, before drawing anything, I've changed the height from zero, from the ground floor to a particular height. So whatever I create now will be floating on that height. Do you understand? So no, those ones will be on the ground because the elevation was zero before creating them. Do you understand? Anything I create from now on will be on that. So if I come here now and create another circle, so let's just say I'm going to have a circle here. See that? It looks like it is crossing it. But if I come to this and I go to isometric view, you're going to see that the circle is actually floating. Can you see? While these ones are on the ground. Because before creating these other ones, the elevation were on zero. But after I change my elevation to 10, the only object I've created so far is still circle. So that's why it's floating. So for me to reset this, I have to go back to my elevation and go and reset it back to zero. Then anything I now create afterwards will be on that ground level. Do you understand? But this is, by the way, just to explain this. So I'll run the elevation again and put my value to 0, enter. So anything I create now will be on the ground. Okay, so that's what the shade this circle back to ground. Yeah, I can actually. So what I'll do is select the circle, run my property. So it's in my property that I'm going to change it. You can see that we have our X, Y, Z. Our Z is 10. So I'll just change my Z to 0. That's it. Okay, so if you orbit now, it's now on the ground, on the same level. Okay, so let's look at the last one, which is the ID point. So you notice that it's kind of hard for you to know those points, see those points. The points are kind of hard to visualize. You can actually tell AutoCAD how you want to visualize a point. And that can be done using point star. So if I click on this point star, it's going to bring up this dialog box and gives me different point star that we have. So this is what we are using by default. So that's why all our points are having this dot. I can change it to whatever point style I want. If I change it to this, and look at the point size, let's leave it at this first. If I click on OK, can you see all the points? So where we did our divide, this is where I added all the points. Where we did our measure, this is where I added all the points. So you can actually use this. So if you don't really see points, you are this kind of person that you don't see object that appear too far, and you don't want to have this still appears too big, then you can utilize your size to make everything, at least make it moderate. So let's say I want to have one, for instance. It's going to make them small. At least you can still see this. So the next time I add the multiple points, I will be seeing them because I'm using that point star and that size. Okay, so I'm going to reset that because of my next class, so that I can also use it to explain to them. So I'll just go back to this and make this 5 and go back to my points. So everything goes back to. Well, you know how to change. You have a question? I don't think so. It's only for this drawing. Only for this drawing. If I said this now, let's say this and open a new drawing. You've checked it. It's only for this drawing. Nothing. So whatever setting you have for this multiple point is for drawing. You have to everything. You have to set them again. Then paste. You have paste. Then okay, so you can actually copy an object and paste object. There are different ways you can paste objects. So let's say I want to copy this object here. I can actually copy. No, my pen is giving me problem. So I have icon to copy, to cut. We know all these things. So, but what I want to focus on is on the paste. All right. So let me just copy this first. So I'll select this. Let me do a with crossing selection and copy. I've copied this object. So now the thing with copy and not the normal copy here is that this normal copy is only drawing this. I only copy it in that drawing. But this other copy to clipboard can take it to a different one. Can paste it into a different one. So I don't have to necessarily recreate this one. I can actually paste it. So there are different ways I can paste this one. So we have copied this guy into our clipboard. So I can create a new drawing now. So once I create a new drawing, I can paste this new drawing here. So for me to paste, if I click on this guy, I have option to paste, paste as a block, paste as hyperlink, paste original coordinates, and paste special. So pasting original coordinates means paste it the exact location you copied it from. Do you understand? So let's see. Let's start with that. If I click here, where is let me, so this is it. So this is the exact location I copied it from. Do you understand? Then I have option to also paste. So this paste will allow you pick where you want to put it. That's why I didn't talk about this first. So if I say paste, can you see? It's going to tell me where do I want to put this guy. So I can say, okay, I want to put it here. Now, when you use this paste, you still have option to select the individual object, right? Okay. Then you have another option to paste as a block. Now, we've not talked about block yet. We are going to talk about it today. But what blocks are more of a group of objects that is specialized. It is not like the normal group. You're going to understand what in a bit. So let me just paste. Then tells me to put a location. I'll put the location here. Now, when you paste, when you have a block, the object is grouped. It's not like the normal group that we looked at. This is a different kind of group of objects. So if I select this now, you notice everything is highlighted. So meaning this is a group object and not the normal group, it's block coverage. So we have that. Then you can also paste as hyperlink. So hyperlink, we'll talk about hyperlink in a bit. Remember when I was talking about in the presentation, when I was explaining those things we are going to be looking at, I said hyperlink is a way of, okay, so the example I gave was site plan and floor plan. And I said you can actually, from your site plan, open a floor plan diagram by hyperlinking. Do you understand? So, but we'll talk about that. So that's what hyperlink is all about. All right. So let's just leave that. So I'll go back to this drawing. So I think that's all for this. For this base, this one is for when you want to bring in objects from another software. So we're not talking about this. If you can see, I can bring in model from model space. I can bring from Inventor. So if you have drawings in Inventor or other application, you can bring them into AutoCAD. Right? So we are not looking at this. So let's go to the next thing we are going to look at, which is parametric. So we have parametric constraints. So what are constraints or parametric constraints? They are just a way of you creating relationship between two or more objects. That's what constraints are about. A way of creating relationship between two or more objects. And we have two types of parametric constraints. We have geometrical constraint and we have dimensional. So geometrical is talking about the geometric relationship between them. So example of the geometric relationship might be that, okay, that tangent we looked at. When we are trying to create line, I wanted that line to be tangential to the circle. That tangent is a geometrical constraint between the circle and the line. We have concentricity relationship, we have collinear, so on and so forth. Then for dimensional constraint, that's talking about the distance, talking about length. So you can create a length. So I can say at every point in time, I want to be 2 feet or 2 meters away from Mr. Meaning if Mr. Wale moves, I have to move within and maintain that 2 meters. You know, that's that's the example of dimensional constraint. So how can we use it in AutoCAD? We're going to bring it back to remember our L shape. We're going to do one small exercise in the class, just for like 10 minutes and come back. But that's after our so let's look at that. So we're going to look at geometrical first, then we'll go to dimension. If you notice for geometrical, it has its own icon, its own show all, hide all. Dimensional has its own show all, hide all. So that means if I'm clicking on this guy, I should be rest assured that I should know that I want to affect dimensional constraints. If I'm clicking on hide all in this panel, I should know that it's going to be affecting dimensional constraints. If I want to affect geometrical, I have to go and click the one under geometrical. Please. Okay, so let's look at this. So I'm going to create some objects. So let's just create line. Okay, so let's look at a few of these. So oh, man. I think is this cable. This cable is beginning to have let me use let me connect via this cast. Okay. All right, so let's quickly look at, we'll pick a few of them, not all, but you can. I'll just pick the ones, a few of them, then we can just, while we are doing the exercises, we'll be picking those around. So we have the first one here, which is coincidence. So what coincidence does is to create a glue point between two objects. So for instance, I want to say at every point in time, my hand should be used to this part of the system. So what I'm going to do using this coincidence. So I can actually press anywhere so if for instance we want to glue this endpoint to the midpoint of this guy, of this line, I can use this coincidence. All right. So if I click on coincidence, and mind you, when you are using your constraint, the first object you pick is always the object that moves. So it's very important. You should know that. So if your intention is to move this guy, eh, when you're running the command, this guy is what you should click first. Do you get that? So because I want to move this line to go and meet this line, and I want the endpoint of this line to meet the midpoint of this line. So when I'm clicking, I'll click this first because this is the one I want to do. I want this one to be static, while this one is. So if I say coincidence, I want to go to this point here on this object. I'll click on this point. Then it's asking me to the second point that I wanted to move to. I don't want to click here. I want to get to the midpoint here. So I'll come to this midpoint, click. Then, am I missing something? Oh, the second object is what moves. Sorry. The second object is what moves. So that means if I'm clicking, I'll click this first. That's where I'm moving to. Then second object will now go and meet it. Right? Then you have this blue dot around it, and this blue dot shows that that is the glue point between them. Meaning, if I select this guy, I try to move. Can you see? Hmm? It will always be at the middle. So even if I'm stretching or reducing, it will always be at the middle of that line. All right. It's still one we have still looked at this guy. So this will always be at the middle of this guy. Then if I want to create this effect that, all this machine effect, the point is fixed and is moving while that two. So I want this head of drawing to be fixed there on my hand. And I want this point to be fixed on the ground. I can make this part fixed point while this guy is connected to my hand. So if I'm moving, this will always be fixed while the other part is following my hand. So we can also do that. So if I want this point here to be fixed, this second point to be fixed. You notice that at this time now, if I'm clicking, it's moving that object. You see, the point is also moving because the length will not change. So the point is moving. If I want the point to be fixed, I don't want it to move away from this position. I can do that by using what we call. So, like I said, I want this guy to be fixed where it is here. So I have this icon which is the lock or fixed. So if I click on fix, it's going to tell me to pick a point that I want to fix. I want to pick this point. All right, please, Mr. Folabi. So if I click on this point, that point will be fixed and I'm going to have this fixed point above. So what that means now, if I select this and I try to move, that point will always be fixed. You can see that it's not moving anymore. It's always fixed there. So that means I can create a relationship so that this one, while this is moving, that one is fixed. Do you understand? Okay, so that's that. I can also create another geometrical relationship such that this guy, while this is fixed, I want it to always be horizontal. Do you understand? This line, I want it to be to always be horizontal. Let me just use another line so you can see what I'm saying. So if I select this, this line is not horizontal. I can make it horizontal by clicking on this guy. This one will make an object horizontal. I'm skipping stuff, but I'll still touch almost everything. So if I click on this and select the line that I want to be horizontal, it will always be horizontal. And I have that icon showing that this object will always be horizontal. I cannot move it otherwise away from being that horizontal. It's not possible. It has to always be horizontal. And the same thing for vertical relay. I can say I want this to always be vertical, and that's okay. Then we have collinear. So what collinear will do is that it's going to make objects have the same. How do I put it? Two lines to lie on the same infinite line. So that means you have this line here. If I create another line somewhere here, it doesn't have to touch. If I create another line here, and I want them to lie on the same infinite line, meaning if I draw the line and let it continue, it should meet this other line. It should continue with that other line. Do you understand? That's what collinear is. So remember, the first object is what is fixed, the second object is what changes, right? So if I click on collinear and I click on this first, and then I click on this will shift and follow the. Do you understand? So this will always, because this guy is fixed, I can't move this point. All right. But if I select this point, I can move it. If I try to move it, you will see that go and join. So that means it's collinear. Join. Okay. And as I move this other one, the other one will have that relationship because they have that collinear relationship. So as this is rotating, the other one also rotates. Do you understand? Do you understand? Okay. Then we have concentricity, concentricity meaning is going to make them share the same center point, right? So if I want this circle and this arc to share the same center point, making the circle go and meet the arc, then I can say concentricity, select the arc first because that's what will be fixed. Then select the circle, it will go there, they share the same center point. So what that means now is if I select this arc and move it away, the circle will always follow it because they have to share the same center point. It's very important. Okay. Then you have this other option. We've looked at all of them here. We've looked at these two. Then you have parallel. So you can also make object parallel to another object. Okay. So if I want this line, okay, to be parallel to this line at every point in time. So let me just create another line here. So you will see it more. So let's say this line. I want this line to be parallel to this. I can do that. So if we click on parallel, the one I click first is the one that stays, right? And the second one is what moves. So what that means now is I can use this guy to drive this other object. So if I'm moving this, they will always be parallel. And the same way if I select this guy, they will always be parallel. Okay. Then you have perpendicularity, so you want them to be perpendicular. So if I want this line to be perpendicular to this line, I can also do that. Okay. But if I do that now, that means I won't be able to move this anyway anymore because this will always be horizontal. Let me show you what I mean. So if I say perpendicular, this will be fixed, while this will jump. Because anyways, if I try to use perpendicular and I click this first, it will not work. Do you know why it won't work? Because no, I want to create a relationship between this line and this line. I want them to be perpendicular. If I click this first, the command will not work. Do you know why? So the reason why it won't work is because we've already established that this will always be horizontal. And if we are to click this first, and we know that the second one is what shift, that means our intention is to make this guy shift such that it will be perpendicular to it. But because we have added a constraint that it will always be horizontal, it won't work, it will not shift. Do you get it? So if we do this, and I come here, it is this one that shifts, this one doesn't shift. So this shifts, and now the implication to this now is that, let me move this away. The implication to this now is I cannot move this anymore. I can only move it away, but I can't change the rotation. Because I know that if I rotate this, it will in turn affect this one, which will have to in turn affect this one. Because we said this will always be horizontal, so that means this will always be vertical, this also will always be vertical. You get that relation. So relationship between one and two objects does not have another effect on other objects. Is it directly affecting the top object? Do you understand? Right? That's all I have to do. So the relationship will keep. So this is the thing now. This has a relationship with this, and the relationship is that they must be perpendicular. This has a relationship with this, which says that they must always be parallel. And then this one has a relationship with this. But then you know that we always move this point to change the, because this one has a lone relationship or a lone constraint which says that it must always be horizontal. So that means we cannot tilt it, it will always be horizontal. If this cannot be tilted, it will always be horizontal, that means this will always be vertical because of the perpendicular relationship we have. So if this is always vertical, that means this one also must always be vertical because they have that parallel relationship. So if this is always vertical, this guy will always have this orientation. It will not change. It can only move, but it can't change in terms of rotation. So that's what I mean by nothing will happen. The only thing that will happen is just movement. Move. Can you see? So the movement is actually changing the rotation, but then this guy is always vertical. You can see it can rotate. Then we have equality sign, we have tangents and so on. So you can just pick any of them. So equal means they should have the same length. So just that's just all that we have here. Then you notice you have all these icons. They are distracting. You can hide them. I can just say hide or show. So if I say hide or show, it's going to tell me to select object to hide or show the icons. If I select this object, I select all these objects and I press enter. It's going to tell me what do I want to do. I want to hide. It's going to hide the icon. It doesn't mean that they don't have the command hide. Another way you can also hide icon is by clicking. If you bring your mouse close to those things, you're going to see an X sign here. If you click it, it will hide. It will not delete. Normally you think it will delete. It will only hide. Then you can also hide all. If I say hide all, it's going to hide all the icons you can see. And if I want to show all, it shows all the icons. So this is geometrical constraint. So let's look at dimensional constraints. So you notice, let me create a line here. Let me create this object. Okay, so I want to create a constraint on this object because right now this object, the length we don't know, but we want to get dimension. So normally, so let me just copy this guy and move it here so you see the difference. If I bring up my dimension, normal dimension, and I click from here to here, you can see what we have, right? So now the thing with this dimension is that if I double click number, this number that I have here, if I double click it, it should take me into the number to edit the number. I can decide, okay, maybe I want the number to be 100. If I say I want it to be 100, I press enter. I click on close. You notice what happens? The number just changes, but then this is not giving us the proper representation of it. We are just changing the text, but the dimension itself didn't change. And we are looking for a way such that changing the dimension here should in turn affect, do you understand what I'm saying? Should in turn affect the shape. So that's the smartness we're looking at. We're looking for a way to add this smart effect to this object so that if you change dimension, if you change shape, what's wrong with it? What's wrong with it? This one now. Let's wait for it. Yeah? No, no. Thank you. So we can also select this guy. You can say linear. Pick this first. Don't forget that's fixed. So we want this one the down part to always be fixed while moving the height should go up. So click here first, then we click here next. So maybe this is going to be width. So that becomes the width. So what that means now, if I come here and I say I want to change the width to 80, changes, but you notice what happens here. So we still do the same thing, right? So I'll undo. So that means I have to make this guy horizontal or perpendicular to that line. So if I say horizontal and make this horizontal at all time, so if I change this to 80, goes up. If I change this to 250, do you understand? So that's just it. I can also decide to say I want to do aligned, I want to do radius. I'm not going to talk about all of them. That's just to explain. So it's still the same way if I want to do angular relationship between objects, that they should always have this angle between them. All right. So we can actually use this to create this our. We can add the what's it called? So this is going to be 8. Answer me. Remember this guy. So we can create that relationship and modify it with those stuff. So if I say, okay, because this is my origin, remember when we created it, this was our origin. So that means we want to be, while changing this length, this should be changing towards this direction, while this should be changing upwards. And this side, we can also change the width of this side too. It should be changing towards this way, this should be changing. So that means when clicking, click here first, click here first, click here. Okay. So let's see how we can do that. You are going to do your E and your E, but I will do the L because this is my own work. Your own is the H and the E. So once I'm done with this one, H and E now. Alright. No, we just use normal line, the same way I did this. Then we can now put that dimension. So let's just do this linear. So I'll click from here to here. Give this. I actually don't need to put label. Let's just say D1. Go with that. Click from here to here, come down, set that, that's that. So for this one, we want to put the length, so we'll do this. We'll click from here to here. That gives us that. And for this one, we want to do this also. So click from here to here. I think that's everything we need. So now, if I start changing stuff, things will be changing. So then I'm going to add another relationship here. I'm just going to make this one horizontal, always horizontal. Why? Am I not meant to do it? Will not work. It won't work. Let me undo. Let me remove this. If I come here and change this to 10, see what happens. Okay, so that's first off. Sorry about that. Let me even join them. So you might say because they are individual parts. So let me join them and make them one object. So I can still go back and join them. J. So that means they are now one object. J. Your modify join. This is it. That thing went away. So let me just go back. Let me see if I show or will show. It's not showing. So it got rid of that. I'll just come back here. Again from here to here. So that means before you start putting this guy, make sure they are joined. From here to this place. No. From here to here. Okay, so this is it. If I change this to 10, see what happens. Okay, it works. Let's see. If we change this to 4, can you see that? And now we are not putting any dimension here because this should affect this one. Are you getting? If I add dimension here, then that is too much now because we should be able to change this and it should do the calculation to give us what is left. So in this case, for this one, I think what I need to do here is to make this guy vertical, and for this one, we have to make it horizontal. Do you understand? So we'll make this one horizontal. Then this works. So this will work. We can flex this. We can make this guy 4, and it works. If we come to this place, eh? It work now. If we make this 4, then if we come to this place, we want to make this instead of this, we want to make it 8. Still works. Fixed point that you talked about, it maintained it. Remember when creating this? Scaling up. Mhm. Okay. No, 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 no. Depend on the constraint you add. The constraint I added was just dimensional constraint. So that means if I add dimensional constraint, I can change the length. So I can just change this 2 to 4 and it will be fatter than that one. Do you understand? Is if I've added maybe equality constraint that they should always be equal. That's when it will not be fatter. Am I making any sense? Let me tell you what I'm saying. So let's bring this back to the 2 that it was, and the same thing this one 2. I know what you're trying to say. You want them to the L. So if I'm changing this, the length should be the same thing, right? That's what you're saying. So this should be 6, and this should be. Oh, sorry, not that. This should be 8. So you want a way that if I increase this one to 3, this should also increase to 3, right? Is that what you're saying? So we can actually do equality. So we can say make this equal. So we say equal. So now if we're making equal, then there's no point putting dimension there because when we're adding dimension so that we can change it. So if you're now saying you want changing that one to affect that, then there's no point for this second dimension, but let's just put it. So if we say equal, we say this one is equal to this. They will always be equal. Now, if I come to this and change this to 3, what did I click? Yeah. It worked. So we didn't make this vertical. I have to always make it vertical to also work. So that means you are complicating the whole thing. So complicating things. So that's just the whole thing. So I can actually delete this. So if I want to, let me talk about, okay, let's talk about the deleting thing. So you know we've looked at show all. We can also decide to show all for this and hide all. And same thing for here, hide all. So you notice we have 2 constraints, the geometrical and I can show all the geometrical constraint and leave the dimensional constraint. And I can show all the dimensional constraint. Then if I want to delete, I can come to delete constraint. So if I say delete constraint, it tells me to select objects. So I'll select this object. All right, so I'll press enter and delete everything. So why is deleting everything? Because it's one object. Do you understand? So I'm trying to see if there is a way we can create a relationship. Yeah. If we can, I've not tried it before, but let's see. Create a relationship such that this guy and this guy will have a relationship. And the relationship will be that this will always be 2 less than this. So that means if I make this 10, this should be 8. You get that? It's possible. Let's see if it's possible. I've not done it before, but let's see if we can do calculation because I'm seeing if this is giving us this is equal to this. and I'm looking at parametric manager and all that. There should be a way. I've not done it, so we are trying together. So if it doesn't work, don't crucify me. So let's see. So I want to create a relationship such that D1 is going to be D2 plus 2 at every point in time. So let's see if it works. So if I double click this and I have D1, we can come to this equality sign and delete that and say D2 plus 2. Let's see if it will work. So let's see what happens now. So plus 2. So that means any value that this one is, you have to add 2 to it to give us the length for this one. So that means by making this 8, this one will be 8 plus 2, making it 10. Right? So let's see if this works. We'll come here. It works. I'm going to be adding it to my next screen. What did I type? Overdo. So let's say this is going to be 8. And it works. It works. Okay. I'm adding this to my next class. So that means if we come here and change this to 4, that one also. So what we can do in that case is that, in the case of that thing we said, instead of adding equality sign, I think we can use dimension function. Say D3 is equal to D2. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I want to do. You can even say this D3 is equal to D4. Are you getting it? One reason. You want to kill us? Which one is where again? Which one is where again? It's bringing this, your. I know you must have not calculation on this. Well, so let's see if it will. Let's say this is equal to D4 and it works. So that means if we make this guy 3, if we make it 1, that one also 1. Okay. So with this viewpoint of mine, I might be able to confuse you. Confuse you. And we can actually add. Just that we can actually add this. I just thought of it now that wait, this one that I'm having D1 is equal to this. Can we add cancellation? So that means we can even do all this. Huh? Let's see the parametric manager parameter. So this is just giving us the parameter. So you can see all the parameter we have here. Okay, so you can create a new parameter. You can filter or get some user parameter. So this one is outside my head. So this one that I've done is enough. So we'll drip water on this. So let's come and draw our own password. No, I'm not. I told you that I'm not on. So we're supposed to stop for assembly. 12. So take 15 minutes. So then the E and the H and I'm back. I'm here actually. When I come back, I don't know the H and the E. No, the dimension and we have the length. Just first, then we have one using dimensional function. And let's say if we change values, so let me stop this one.